Cool,
Okay.
cool. So you mentioned software I haven't heard the name of in about a decade and a half. No, almost 2 decades. I used to work for Apple back in the day. So
Okay.
when you said that digital performer or performer, I forget his
Yeah.
name. Wow, wow.
Digital Performer is still it's still out there, and it's still, I would say, the if you're a Mac-based composer, you are using either Logic or Digital Performer.
Yeah.
Those are the two big ones. And if you're on PC-based system, you're using Cubase,
Okay.
most likely if you're on a
Okay.
PC. Those are probably the three big. Now, that's not the only three. There's other ones out there, but those are probably the big three, I would say.
Okay. Okay. Ben, anything else from you?
Let's see. I'm trying to think of value to the people who deal in sound. If you had to three quick tips or rules to the game of scoring and scoring tracks, could you come up with two or three things that are like top of mind? This is what you should be thinking about when you're doing this. These are three things to keep in mind every time. Like, when we're cutting, when we're doing videography, there's things we know, like, okay, you want to cut on an eye movement or hand movement or whatever, and don't violate the 180 unless you intend to. Quick rules. Are there two or three of those you could throw out there that our sound specialists would get some value from?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Don't overdo it. I mean, don't be a dictator. Don't be the diva artist where it's like, oh, my music has got to be here and it's got to be everywhere and it's got to do this. I mean, don't overdo things. Subtle. I like the phrase that a little goes a long way, and that's true of sound. It's true of music. Even in the hyper realized world of cinema, a little still can go a long way. And sometimes it's the power of subtlety that can really drive home ideas. So I just don't like it when sound design is overdone. I don't like it when music is overscored. Subtlety should always kind of be in the back of the mind.
Okay.
I don't think there's. It's interesting when you mention the word rules or tips. I mean, when it comes to composing, there aren't really, and I can relate this to being in the editing, like you said, in the editing field, because I'm an editor as well. I've edited a handful of big time, big documentaries, and so there are some quote unquote rules that you are at least aware of while you're editing.
Yeah.
But composing, I think, is a little more fluid than that, and I don't know if I like to steer clear of the quote unquote rules. In fact, rules tend to present themselves in different periods of time. In other words, if you wanted me to talk for 30 minutes about what does film scoring in 2020 sound like, yeah, I could go on and on and on about here are the rules of 2020 film scoring. Well,
I'm open.
I want to break away from that. Like, I don't want to do that. If somebody hired me to compose the sound that is on every film that you're hearing in 2020, like maybe I'll do it, but it's like that's not what I look for. Like, I look for scores that off the beaten path, outside of the box. I'm always looking to experiment. I'm always looking to take a risk, and that's why I love independent filmmaking. I mean, the majority of all my work is in independent film. It's because they can afford to take the risks, whereas big time studio films, they can't, and so you get a lot of safe scores. You get a lot of scores that are just they're not bad. They're just really safe and kind of mundane. And I don't.
Okay, so hold on.
I'm now.
You just touched on something. You
Now
did
I'm
not
here.
know.
Now
See,
I'm
now
ready.
I see. All right. Okay. So on that, a couple years ago, I mentioned a little something about the Avengers theme song.
Huh?
Remember that?
Yeah.
How you said that no Marvel movies, or very few of them, have memorable theme songs.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I didn't say it.
well, not
quite.
like that. Okay, not like that, but as memorable as like
Listen,
what do you call it? Raiders of the Lost Ark.
so
Something that.
let me clarify, and I'll let you continue.
All right.
There are plenty of memorable themes throughout the entire MCU. The problem is they are not developed like
Ah,
things.
okay. Okay.
Okay, so that's the big difference.
Yes.
When they're not developed, when they're not used as primary vehicles to deliver certain ideas, the idea of what a theme is and the purpose behind it in film tends to get a little lost.
Okay.
So there
Yes, yes.
are some memorable themes, but they're so quick and they're so fleeting and they're so underdeveloped that I'm not even 100% sure why they're there. So to be honest,
So they're not properly
So wait.
fleshed out.
So what would you say about like Black Panthers? There's a couple of tracks in there that stuck with me out of the Black Panther movie. Would you say those were better done, or?
I like the Black Panther score. I think the Black Panther score is better than most. I think we probably had this conversation, Chill, before Black Panther came out.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
in fact, it's interesting, since we had this conversation, the MCU films since then have been better scored. I remember really loving the Doctor Strange score a whole lot.
Okay.
That was odd. I wasn't expecting that one.
Well, that's why I loved it. Again, outside the box, it was odd. It wasn't safe. It took some risk, and I was like, yeah, it felt like the mysterious world of Doctor Strange. It was very, it was cool in that regard. And of course, Infinity War. That was a fantastically scored, two films there. I like Ant-Man a whole lot by Christoph Beck. So
that wouldn't get as much attention as like people seem to not really enjoy Ant-Man that much. I really liked it. Personally.
Oh, I did too. Yeah, I loved the film. I liked the music a lot. It's still not a great example of, film scoring. And I hate to use the cliche as the comparative example, but Star Wars. Now, again, what is the benefit of Star Wars? A, you have one composer scoring all 9 films. 2, you have not just one composer, but one of the best composers to ever, score a movie in the last 100 years. Yeah. So it's a little unfair to compare it with that. But again, let's take another example.
It's gold standard. Why not use it?
It is. And there's another example, Lord of the Rings. I mean, Lord of the Rings.
I can hear Phantom Menace.
Of course.
In the Phantom in my head. Like that is.
It's. The music is not just memorable, but it's developed so much that it's so cohesive. It becomes it becomes such a part of the fabric of the film itself. You can't rip the music away from those movies without tearing them. Yeah. Whereas the MCU, there's so many examples of more generic scoring in those movies that you could take the music out of parts of Captain America and you could put it in any other action film and it would do just the same. And I don't know if it would really ring Captain America all the time. You know what I mean? They're so interchangeable. There's not a lot of material that really marry it to the visual so that they cannot be separated.
I never thought about this, but here would be a question. Is like so Iron Man. Watching an Iron Man movie, which is all technology and all this stuff, is the scoring from that dramatically different from something like Captain America? Because I'm thinking about it, and I'm going, they shouldn't sound the same. Just like you're talking about Doctor Strange. Like, there's a lot of ways you could go with a Doctor Strange with the mystical side. Like, there's a lot of things you could do, a lot of choices you could make. I don't know. I need to go back and rewatch this movie now.
Well, you got a lot of viewing.
There are very simple devices in those films, which again that make Iron Man sound like Iron Man, and that's the electric guitar. There's some Black Sabbath-y kind of references, and that brings out Iron Man. But are the, Captain America, there's a little, again, I was a little disappointed in the lack of the patriotic pastiche in Captain America. Of course. I mean, it's Captain America. I mean, he's totally raw on screen. Why can't the music be there to really, drive those ideas home? So there are some elements that separate out the movies, but again, not every, but I haven't even counted all the composers that have scored an MCU movie, but there are at least a dozen, maybe 15 composers. And so it's hard to also get that Lord of the Rings or Star Wars level of
cohesiveness.
cohesion when you have 15 different composers. They all want to do their thing. They don't want
Right.
to just hash out what the composer did before. So I get that. I mean, and I think having different composers is a good thing. I think there's no way one composer could have scored all the MCU movies ever. There's no way.
Right.
That would have not been a good idea either. So I like the different, just like the different directors bring a different vision to the MCU.
Right.
Composers can bring a different vision, but they have to bring a different vision. When Michael Giacchino scored Doctor Strange, I really felt he brought a different vision to the MCU. He did something that nobody really had ever done. And he did that with Spider-Man Homecoming. So there are some examples where and Ludwig Göransson also really did with Black Panther. I mean, that the score for Black Panther can't go on any other MCU movie. It's not that generic action music that you hear in a lot of the other scores.
When I hear Black Panther, the first thing is choo choo choo. That's what I hear in my head the moment someone says Black Panther. Is that the casino? Was that the casino?
Yeah.
You say Black Panther, that was my ringtone for like 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, that's so good. I got like hype. Like it would get me ready. I would work out and train to that. That's how much it fit.
Yeah.
But I'll put it this way. It affects people of all ages too. Every time, like, I would have a Black Panther playing whatever. And as soon as Jade, now she's 11, would walk by or hear from her bedroom, she goes, "Oh, the general!" And she knows that she just whipped off her wig, threw it off, and started whooping ass in the friggin' casino.
Which is the best part of the movie. I just want to point that out.
Yes.
The best part of the film.
Yeah, and I don't like to criticize film music too much. I don't like to rag on film scores too much because I love film music so much it pains me.
Yeah.
But to be a little bit critical, I think the best MCU movie ever is Winter Soldier. But it has what I probably consider to be the worst score. And there's an interesting paradox there. There's an interesting and I've spent a lot of time thinking, why is that? Why is Winter Soldier the best MCU movie, but yet it's one of the least effective scores? I mean, you could literally put that score on any other action, generic action movie, and it would be just the same. It would have just the same kind of resonance. It lacked. There's so much of a psychological battle in in Winter Soldier that is there on screen, but the music doesn't take you on that psychological journey, and I wish it had. There's so many
go through the notes.
That's my favorite one.
And they said it was supposed to be the French Connection.
Yeah.
Just with superheroes. But didn't
sound like it.
Didn't give me
exactly. I mean, I'd never heard that before, and I never would have guessed that before. It kind of makes some sense now that you mention it a little bit, but I mean, the French Connection has one of the most innovative and experimental and amazing film scores of the 70s. And so I would love that level of, I get it, all that money on the line, they're trying to create a cinematic universe. You can't experiment too much. I get it. You can't just go in and drop an A-bomb of experimentation. But you can step out of the box. There's some room.
They got interesting with Thor.
They did. And again, Captain Strange, I thought. I mean, Giacchino took some pretty interesting turns musically in that movie, and it worked. It was perfect. I don't know if Winter Soldier demands that type of experimentation because of the subject matter, but there's enough there to explore, and there's just a missed opportunity. It's kind of what I use to describe a lot of these situations. It's not a bad score. It's not bad music. It's just missed opportunities where music could have done something and it didn't.
Right.
So actually, I was curious about. So you said Lord of the Rings. So when you say Lord of the Rings, is there a particular track inside of the Lord of the Rings that comes to mind when you hear that?
I mean, yeah, the Fellowship theme that instantly comes into play. I mean, the Hobbit, all the theme, the Hobbit theme, the Fellowship theme, the Ring theme. I mean, they're just instantly ingrained, just like Star Wars. They're instantly ingrained in my psyche.
Sure. I got emotional when was it Sheeran? that the mountain. If this is to end in fire, but we all burn together. Raise a glass of wine. That one. When I heard that, like in the theater, I'm sitting there, like I'm sitting in the chair and it's over, and I'm like not crying, not like ugly crying, like a manly weep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The sitting there just like.
Well, that's. I mean, I'll admit too. That's how I was at the end of Return of the King with Annie Lennox, Into the West. You know, the song at the end of during the credits. I was the same way. I was just delivering mess. You know.
Yeah.
But
that.
You got more emotional than I did. Go ahead.
Dude, Fast and the Furious. They did that with the Wiz Khalifa. What Fast and the Furious was it 7? I don't even remember which one. When Paul Walker died, and they played that track, and they had the montage. I was bawling in the theaters.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, you guys, you rat bastards. Oh, so it was. It got me. I'm not an easy crier. But it got me really, really good.
I love it when a movie does that.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious though. When you said if you could tell someone how to make the score for 2020, if you could just briefly give us a taste of what that means, either what to do or not to do. I'm made of questions on that one. Please, I need you to
a mess of
expound.
confusion into something solid, or it has to begin with mess of confusion.
Okay, so there's a challenge in explaining it briefly, first of all, and then there's a challenge in explaining it to somebody that may not know the musical terminology. So I'll just say there's a lot of dependency on what's called an ostinato, which is basically a repeated figure. And that's fine. Music is full of ostinatos. John Williams relies on them heavily. But again, repetition to me, like as a musician, as a composer, nothing kills me more than repetition. And I'm just like that in life. If my kids say, Dad, are we there yet? Dad, are we there yet? Dad, are we there? Like, repetition just drives me bonkers, right? So music's the same way. So if you have an ostinato, all right, that's a nice little groove. But if it goes on and on and on and on, and it never develops, it never changes, that just starts to grate on you. So there's a heavy dependence on, I won't just say ostinato, but underdeveloped use of ostinato in music. And then once you establish like this ostinato that in this passage, you take that and you copy, and I can literally hear the composer doing it in the computer. You take this section, you copy and paste it, you transpose it up a minor third, and you let it go for 8 to 16 bars. And you take that, you copy and paste it, transpose it up a minor third or a major third at that point, and then you get 8 to 16 more bars. I can just hear the composers literally do, because I have a computer too, and I can hear the use of the computer in our scores. It doesn't mean the computer is bad. I can just hear how it's being used. There's a heavy dependence on just longer sustains. A lot of just you hold down the violin and you do this high pitched violin note, and then that just lasts for like a minute and a half, and that's your cue. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I mean, it's not bad. It's just safe. You're not gonna do anything wrong. It's way too safe. It's not creative. There's so many different ways to convey a certain emotion or an idea. So that's an element. I think an overuse on heavy, percussion. I think there's even an overuse on, strange and bizarre sounds. I know a lot of people get excited. Oh, there's a weird, somebody used, I don't know, somebody used a toilet seat cover, for this sound. Okay, well that's cool to create a cool sound, but if you're not using it right and it doesn't have a function behind it, it doesn't really matter. I'm not going to get all excited because somebody used a toilet seat to make a drum out of it or something like that. It has to fit with the score. The score still has to be good. But I don't know. There's a lot of things that go into a lot of it's just, again, it's just safe. It's just safe. I don't want to use the term generic, but it has that kind of safe, just kind of like almost like a fast food equivalency. McDonald's. Okay, McDonald's is is designed to taste good no matter where you eat it in the world. A Big Mac is the same whether you get it in New York or whether you get it in Florida. It's the same. It appeals to a mass of people, billions and billions served, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of modern film music has that billions and billions served mentality. It's got that, fast food mentality a little bit where it's not bad. I mean, again, it's designed to taste great. I listen to a lot of it, so it's pleasant to listen to. But is it really? Is it the same as is McDonald's the same as a 5-star gourmet chef? No, it's not. We're not going to kid ourselves. So, that's a little bit of how I compare modern film music. I don't want to be I'm down on modern film music guy because I love it. There's so many scores. In fact, I'll say there's never been a period in cinema history where more great film scores are being written on an annual basis, on a yearly basis, than right now. But you have to find them. You have to find them. They're in all corners of the earth in random places. They're not necessarily in all the the big $200 million blockbuster films. There's plenty out there.
So that brings me to my next question. And so give me, everybody, let's go around our top 3 scores, soundtracks.
Of all time?
Yeah, of all the movies, like right now, a couple that come to mind.
I should go last.
Yeah, you go last. Chill?
No, you go first. I'm thinking.
Oh my gosh. I was going to say Matrix, but that got outdone like Furious Angels. Oh, so good. But if I had to pick 3, it doesn't change. It's still going to be Cowboy Bebop, Ocean's 12, and then it's going to be Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Those are the 3 flawless ones I can listen to. I'll buy the album. I had the soundtracks. Like it was cash money.
That's very cool. I mean, I love Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is a score that I've used many, many times in my lectures, in my UT class, specifically on action, like how music underscores action, because it's got a very it scores it more like a ballet rather than just accenting the punches and the kicks. It's more like the flow and the movement and the dance of the action on screen, and it's a brilliant score.
Movies beautiful for every reason that a movie can be beautiful.
Yeah.
Like the cinematography matches up with the fight choreography, which matches up with the music. It's like it's perfect. And whenever I would talk to people, we do conversation about fight choreography. Right. I'm like, here's where your camera moves matter. I was getting all these people want to do these kung fu fights, and they wanted these wides. And I was like, well, you don't have the right kind of foot movement. Like your lower body is not active enough for us to be showing the entire body while we're fighting. You need like a medium close-up. There is no reason to have this big, wide, long, one-take thing when all the action's up here. It's like
you're not doing leg movements.
There's nothing happening down here. I don't know what we're doing with this space. We go for energy versus, and then that would lead to, if we're going to go energetic, and the angles are going to be boom, 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 close up, close up, close up. Well, then the music would match the energy of what's going on with that camera and what's going on in the fight. So
the staccato needs to be.
Like it matters. Like it does.
Yeah, I get it.
One big dance. And they did it excellently in that particular film.
Okay. So if you're going to go last, then I have to do some condensing. X is going to be 4.
Oh my God! Why can't you follow the rules?
Because you know the rules and you break them. You gotta figure out. So I just started that, which I am going to kick myself later. Anyway, Macross Plus. It's a anime, of course. You can find out it's 4 pieces. You'll find it. There's even a movie version.
Yeah.
Up, right below that, and it needs to go higher. I understand, but I got put in number 3 anyway. Akira soundtrack.
I thought Akira might be coming up pretty soon.
Akira, I have that soundtrack. I'm looking at it right there. The bike.
Yeah.
Oh, I know it well.
The bike is right here. Okay.
Yeah. I have a homeboy who's obsessed with both of those movies, Macross and Akira. So yeah. His nickname is Canada. Pretentious. He's a pretentious guy.
Oh, good Lord. So, knowing that, I go into Duel of the Fates. Not just the entire film, but specifically Duel of the Fates.
Okay, so
Yeah.
The entire film, Phantom Menace led up all the way up to it. It was done. Yes, it was done throughout the entire film. But like you said, it was leading up to that, not just. I mean, there were. It was a. It's
what are they even saying? We sing the song. You don't even know what they're saying, but you're in it. You know what I mean? Like it comes on and people just start harmonizing. You have no idea what you're saying. That's how good it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you listen to it, it's like someone's ass is about to get whooped.
Yeah. I've been looking for an excuse to make anything that would justify having
Right.
that level of epic soundtrack to it. Like I got swords and stuff. I'm waiting to just like to have this thing that's like freaking Vikings jumping off of a ship onto the beaches, smashing the lizard man. Like I'm waiting to make that thing that will justify having a track that epic. I mean, there's lightsabers back there. I don't know if you can see it. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yeah. Okay. So beyond that, the number one bit of music, or actually soundtrack, I would pick is Cowboy Bebop. And I have to preface that by saying this: I love me some hip hop.
Yeah.
Period. There is no place in this place where hip hop is not at.
Okay.
The only bit of music that goes beyond that actually rises above that for me, is jazz. Period.
It's not getting enough shine.
Yo, I'm born in Detroit, right? There's a couple times I remember where my mom would say, shut that damn music off at 2:31 in the morning. Listening to WJZZ. It no longer exists in Detroit as is. But WJZZ, all that jazz and more. Oh yes, jazz is. I got the whole. What's the name? The dude. I got his New York City Jazz Society thing. I am a jazz fan. When the screenplays right over here, I started out with a jazz song.
Yeah, dude.
I mean,
I had so much of that music in Cowboy Bebop, Piano Black specifically. I can remember I had all of the tracks because they were amazing. Like I had never heard anything sound like that. Jazz, like I'm into because I'm in the like down tempo Parisian like house,
right,
like Cafe Del Mar and all that kind of stuff. But jazz. Bossa Nova, which you don't even hear Bossa Nova samba like that. I'm like, where Nicola Conte? Like, why does no one know that this stuff is dope? Like, it never gets it's overlooked.
I mean, for me, it's like Miles Davis. Miles Davis musically is responsible for one half of my first screenplay. The name of the film, High Speed Chase. That's a Miles Davis song. I am a jazz fan. So
jazz is a big part of my childhood. When my introduction into music was through the saxophone. I played tenor sax. That's how I learned, beginning band and all the way through college. I was a tenor sax player. And so there was a period of my life from like 6th grade to about 10th grade where I was as modern pop music illiterate as you can imagine. Like all I listened to was jazz in that period. So to be a middle school kid and only listen to jazz, like I got a lot of heads turned and eyes raised. Yeah, I was kind of a weird kid. But so I'm right up there. But my three, I I have about 170 films in my top three, so let me start naming them all. No, I'm just kidding. I do have like 200 films in my or film scores in my top three, but let me just try to name it down to three. Um, I consider what I consider to be the greatest achievement in film music history is Lord of the Rings, and I call it the greatest achievement because I don't think a composer had as big a challenge as scoring essentially this 12-hour epic movie where all these themes, where he had like dozens and dozens of representative themes, had to develop them, weave them all together. He had this huge mountain, this challenge, and then to have that composer like eclipse that challenge and just absolutely deliver, I consider to be the greatest achievement in film music history.
There's no hate in that. Yeah.
My favorite film score of all time, the one that's been the most influential on me personally, and I've spent my entire life studying it from a academic level, is Vertigo from 1958, the Alfred Hitchcock film with Jimmy Stewart.
Okay.
Music composed by Bernard Herrmann.
Yeah.
And then a third one, that's I'm sitting here thinking that's where the other 170 come into play for this last spot. It really is hard for me to say, and it's hard for me to not leave out something by John Williams. I mean, I'd have to probably put Star Wars just because I wouldn't be here without that score. I remember clear as day. I still have my parents' LP, in my studio where like I would lay on my stomach on the living room floor, put the album on, and just open up the gatefold and stare at the pictures in the Star Wars album and just listen to the score like over and over again. And that, back then you didn't have VHS, you didn't have cable. So if you wanted to connect with Star Wars, you had the soundtrack, and you had the toys.
Yep.
And that's how you connected. And I did. I had both. And there's no doubt that put me on a path to where I am. So I'd have to put the original. As much as I put the original Star Wars film, I think Empire Strikes Back, the score is even better. I mean, that's where John Williams took all these ideas and really
he got to take off with it.
He did.
I mean, but you said that, but for me thematically, in episodes 4, 5, and 6, as far as that goes, other than Duel of Fates, I forgot the name of the battle, of the part of the movie. But when they're chasing the Falcon in the
asteroid field.
Asteroid field.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just about to say that's probably my all-time favorite John Williams piece of all time. The asteroid field. It's so good.
Yeah, typically people, it's either whenever they talk about their inspiration, it's normally Star Wars is there and Indiana Jones comes up. That's where.
And that's great.
And they're fun. I came to Star Wars much, much later in life because just how things worked out. Ray Park is the reason why I paid any attention to Star Wars. Because as a kid, I was watching Kung Fu movies already. So everything that happened in the 90s, like Renegade and Walker, Texas Ranger and all that stuff, I was like, that's not... I was already watching Donnie Yen and Michelle Yeoh by that point in time. So all the action stuff in America just really wasn't that much of an impact for me. Actually, the Tekken video game is probably one of the main reasons I want to do choreography. Tekken 4 and Tekken Tag. Because the playbacks on Tekken 4 was slow motion. And it was so good, it looked like a movie. Like the way you just barely dodged something and hit a guy. And so that's what actually made me get into film and doing what I do was that. And then Tekken Tag, the music was so obscene. It's what I work out to now. It was so epic. Because I'm also a big fan of violin. So I played the violin as a kid. And so violins to me, they're epic.
Yep.
And it had all these things like staff roll. If you have nothing else to do with your time viewing audience, go look up Tekken Tag, staff roll, or Final Fantasy X Mount Gagazet, violence all day long, and they'll just get you emotional and ready to destroy armies. So that's the stuff that got me actually making these movies and wanting to do fight choreography.
I've had the experience once of conducting a live orchestra, the John Williams Asteroid Field, and I can tell you, if I could gift
Ooh.
if I could gift that sensation to you, I would. It is one of the most just amazing sensations you'll ever experience. To conduct that piece in a live with a live orchestra is amazing.
Brian, I didn't know you were the brother of another mother.
Yeah, it's way up there. So,
but yeah, you already know what I was talking about when I talked about the asteroid field. So obviously, yes.
yeah. As soon as he started trying to figure out, I was like, I bet you he's going to say asteroid field. Yeah,
You're damn right.
well,
Yeah.
you're not the only Star Wars fan to say that. It is. You listen to it and you listen to for somebody like me with a score reader, when you open up the score and you're just like John Williams is just mind-blowingly amazing to be able to come up with this. So yeah, it'll never get old.
I only seen the man once, and once. It was when I was living in Massachusetts. My mom tried to get me and my brother's uncultured butts to the Boston Pops. I had no idea how important the Boston Pops actually was.
What year would this have been?
1983, 84.
That's before my time. I was an usher with the Boston Symphony, Boston Pops for 2 years when I was at Berklee. So yeah, I saw John Williams come in a couple times, I think.
You suck. Anyway,
Great college job being the usher for the BSO.
Yeah, well, you saw him, but I mean, I was this little kid. Of course, he looked far off, but my memory says to me that it was a Nutcracker. There we go. Nutcracker. I know that I can actually hum the entire thing by heart instantly right now. That's how many times I've heard it. Ugh. But we're watching it, and I'm falling asleep. Over and over. My brother's worse than me on it, but that nudge I got from my ribs still hurts. But yes, I saw the man, the thing did this thing. My mom said that she would never take me to another performance of Broadway or anything else after that. And now I think back on it now, at my 8-year-old self now, get your ass up! I just paid good money for this ticket. Get it! That's John Williams, fool!
And now you're nudging your own self in the ribs for missing that.
Yep.
All right. Well, we got to but Brian, it's been wonderful to interview you.
Thank you.
It is a pure pleasure. Ben, anything?
I got nothing, man. I got a lot of questions, and I learned a lot today. Learned a lot about what to think about when we're doing these movies and thinking about the sound and the design in a way that I wouldn't have before today. So thank you so much, Brian. It was excellent. Looking forward to that book.
Yeah.
Getting to.
Do you have a name for that book yet?
It's just right now. It's just the music of Friday the 13th. So I think that's probably what it'll end up being. It might, yeah. So unless I get another idea, that's
okay.
We'll look out there. Yeah. We'll hype it up. It's all good.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
always good talking to you. If you ever need me back again for any part 2, let me know. Like I said, I can talk about this stuff for hours. I mean, in hours.
We should do that. We should do that series. It's like when they watch a movie, when they go like an expert right there, and they're showing different clips from different things.
Yeah.
You can do that with Brian.
Yeah.
Have some fun with it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, thank you for coming. Thank you for having the patience to watch all of our old asses. But Austin Action Fest, Benjamin Red II, Chilimboy, Washington, Brian Satterwhite, we thank you all. Peace.